This story comes from a man named Travis. He's in his mid-40s, lives in rural western Texas, works as a field supervisor for an oil and gas company. His job has always involved long drives, out to sites, back home, sometimes covering 200 or 300 miles in a single day. He's been doing it for over 15 years. He knows those roads the way most people know their own neighborhood. He's not someone who gets rattled easily. He was very specific about that when he shared this. He grew up out there. Empty highways, no cell service, middle of nowhere. That's just Tuesday for him. It's normal. It's home. This happened on a Thursday night in early November, roughly 2.5 years ago. He'd finished a late site inspection about 90 miles from his house and was heading back on a state highway he'd driven probably 1,000 times. 2 lanes, completely flat, cuts through open scrubland with nothing on either side for miles in every direction. No towns, no gas stations, nothing until you hit the county line. It was around 11:40 p.m. No other cars on the road. Clear sky, no moon that night, so outside of his headlights it was completely black in every direction. He was doing about 70, cruise control set, radio on low. Around mile marker 214, he came up on a car on the shoulder. Hazard lights on, trunk up. As he passed it, he caught it in his headlights for just a second. A sedan, dark-colored, looked like it had a flat rear tire. And standing just behind the open trunk was a woman. He drove past. He told me he went back and forth in his head for about 10 seconds. It's late, it's cold, no cell service out here. He has jumper cables, a basic toolkit, an air compressor in his truck. He'd want someone to stop for him. He turned around. He pulled up behind her with his hazards on and got out of the truck. She was standing at the back of the car. Young woman, he thought, early 20s, dark hair, wearing a light jacket. She looked relieved when he walked up. Said her tire had blown out about 20 minutes ago, and she'd been trying to call for help, but couldn't get a signal. He told her he had a compressor, asked if she had a spare. She said she thought so, wasn't sure where it was. He looked in the trunk to help her check. The trunk was completely empty. No spare, no jack, nothing. But also, no bags, no groceries, no jacket, no water bottle, no purse, nothing. For a woman who'd supposedly been stranded on a dark highway for 20 minutes on a cold night, nothing personal in that trunk at all. He stood up and looked at the tire. It wasn't flat. He looked at all 4 tires. Every single one was fully inflated. He could see it clearly in his headlights. He looked at her. She was watching him. Her expression hadn't changed. She said, "Can you help me?" He said, "Your tires look fine." She said, "I know something's wrong with the car."
He took a step backward toward his truck and said he wasn't a mechanic, but he could drive her to the next town. She said okay, and reached into the car through the open driver's window to grab something. That's when he noticed the driver's door was already open. Not the window, the whole door. Had been the whole time. He couldn't see what she reached for. He got in his truck. He's told this story a few times, and he said every time he tries to explain why he got back in his truck without her, he struggles to put it into words. There was no single thing he could point to. It was everything. The empty trunk, the fine tires, the open door, the way she looked at him when he noticed the tires. Something in the sum of all of it hit him at once, and he just moved. He locked his doors, pulled back onto the highway. In his rearview mirror, she was standing in the road watching him go. Not on the shoulder, in the road. standing under her own hazard lights in the middle of the lane. He drove 20 miles before he got enough signal to call his wife. He told her what happened, and she told him to call the county sheriff, which he did. He gave them the location, the description of the car, description of the woman. The deputy told him they'd check it out and took his information. No one called him back that night. He drove back out that way 2 days later in the daylight. He slowed down at mile marker 214. There was nothing there. No car, no debris, no rubber from a blown tire. Nothing on the shoulder at all. He doesn't have an explanation. He's not the type of person who goes looking for one either. But the thing he told me that I can't get out of my head is this. He said the whole drive home that night, he kept thinking about what would have happened if she'd gotten in his truck. If he'd been a different kind of person, more helpful, less experienced, less tuned in to when something doesn't add up. He said he thinks about that open car door a lot. Not what she was reaching for, just the fact that the door was already open before he offered her a ride. Like she already knew she was going to need it unlocked.
This one is from a woman named Renee. She's in her early 30s, lives in a mid-sized city in North Carolina, works in healthcare administration. She's precise, detail-oriented. She was very clear about that when she sent this in. She remembers specifics, dates, times, sequences of events. She's not someone who embellishes. This happened on a Saturday night in March, about 18 months ago. She'd been at a birthday dinner for a friend about 35 miles from her apartment. Left around 11:15, took the interstate most of the way, and then got off on a 2-lane county road for the last 8 miles. A route she'd taken many times, nothing unusual about it. She was about 4 miles from home when a truck got on the road behind her. She noticed it because of the headlights. They were set high, floods or aftermarket lights, the kind that fill your entire rearview mirror and make it hard to see anything past them. She adjusted her mirror to cut the glare and kept going. The truck stayed close. Not aggressive, not right on her bumper, but closer than felt normal. She was doing 45, the posted limit. The truck didn't pass her, even though there were long, clear stretches where it easily could have. She turned onto her street. The truck turned behind her. She told herself it was a neighbor. It was a residential street. People lived there. It wasn't unusual. She did not pull into her driveway. She kept driving, went around the block slowly. The truck followed. She got back to her street, passed her house again, kept going. The truck was still behind her. She drove back to the county road and headed toward a gas station she knew was open 24 hours, about 2 miles back. The truck followed her out of the neighborhood, and then, about a half-mile down the county road, its lights swung off into a side street, and it was gone. She sat in the gas station parking lot for 15 minutes. Called her husband, who was home with their daughter. He wanted to come get her. She told him to stay with the baby and just stay on the phone with her while she drove the rest of the way home. She pulled into her driveway, went inside, locked everything. She and her husband looked at their home security camera footage from that 20-minute window while she'd been driving around. The truck had been on their street twice. Once when she first turned onto it and didn't pull in. The truck had gone past her driveway, gone to the end of the block, turned around, and come back before following her when she drove away. And once, about 3 minutes after she'd left the neighborhood, the truck came back. Alone that time. Drove slowly down the street, slowed almost to a stop in front of their house. You could see the brake lights in the footage, and then pulled away. Their house number is clearly visible from the street. She filed a police report the next morning, gave them the footage, gave the best description she could of the truck. dark-colored, full-size, couldn't make out the plate in the footage. The officer who took the report told her to keep her security system active and to document anything else unusual. Nothing happened after that. No one came back as far as she knows. And that's almost the part that bothers her most, the not knowing. Whether that person found what they were looking for somewhere else. Whether they moved on. Whether they're still out there on that county road on Saturday nights, following women home, checking house numbers. She told me she used to love that drive. The trees, the quiet, the feeling of almost being home. She takes a different route now. Every time, without exception. She said she doesn't think she'll ever fully stop checking her rearview mirror. And honestly, after everything she described, I don't think she should.
Pay attention to this one. I mean it. Out of everything in this video, this is the one I want you to remember. Not because it's the most dramatic, not because of anything that happens that you could point to and say, there, that's the moment. It's the opposite of that. It's a story about a series of small things that each looked like nothing on their own. And it's a story about the one decision that changed everything. This comes from a man named Paul. He's 38, lives in southern Illinois, drives a commercial delivery route for his job. Small regional route, 5 days a week. Same roads over and over. He knows his route cold. Every intersection, every shortcut, every stretch where he loses radio signal. On a Wednesday night in August, he was running about 2 hours behind schedule. It happens sometimes. Delays at stops, traffic, whatever. It meant finishing his last delivery around 1 a.m. and then driving the empty truck back to the depot, which was about 40 miles from his last stop. Straight shot down a state highway, flat farming country. Nothing out there. He was about 15 miles from the depot, so maybe 1:20 in the morning, when he saw a man on the shoulder, standing next to a car that had its hood up. Paul slowed down. Commercial trucks were technically not supposed to stop and pick up passengers, company policy. But he'd made exceptions before when someone was clearly stranded. Middle of nowhere, middle of the night, someone needs help. He was a father. He'd want someone to stop for his kid if they were stuck somewhere. He pulled over about 30 feet ahead of the car and watched in his mirrors as the man walked up toward his passenger window. Middle-aged man, heavy set, wearing a baseball cap. He looked flustered, sweaty, even though it was around 70 degrees. He told Paul his alternator had gone and his phone was dead. Asked if Paul could give him a lift to the next town, about 12 miles up the road. Paul said he wasn't really supposed to, but he'd call it in and get him a number for a tow service. He reached for his phone to look up a local number. The man said he didn't need a tow. He just needed a ride to his brother's place. 12 miles. Paul looked at him through the window. Something about the way the man was breathing. Not winded exactly, not panicked the way you'd expect someone who'd been stranded for a while to be. He was breathing like someone who'd been moving recently. And his shoes. Paul noticed the shoes. Clean. No road dust on them. This was a dry August night on a dusty highway shoulder. And this man's shoes looked like he just put them on. Paul told him he'd get him the number for a tow. He looked down at his phone. The man's hand came through the window.
Not aggressive, not grabbing, just reached in and put his hand on Paul's forearm. Not gripping, just resting there. And he said, quietly, "Come on, man. Just drive me up the road. It's 12 miles." Paul looked at the hand on his arm. He said he can't fully describe what happened in him in that moment. He said it wasn't fear exactly, it was clarity. Like everything that had been slightly off, the breathing, the shoes, the way the man had asked twice, the hand, all of it arranged itself into a single, clear thought. He said, "I'm sorry, I can't do that." And he put the truck in gear. The man stepped back from the window. Paul pulled out onto the highway and accelerated. He was watching his mirrors. The man stood on the shoulder watching him go. Didn't go back to his car, just stood there watching Paul's taillights. Paul called his dispatch immediately and told them what happened and where he was, standard protocol. Dispatch logged it and told him to drive straight to the depot and they'd note the location. Paul got to the depot, parked the truck, went into the office to log out. There was a sheriff's deputy waiting for him. Paul's initial reaction was that dispatch had called them about the incident on the highway, but the deputy told him that wasn't it. About 2 weeks earlier, roughly 30 miles from where Paul had just been, a truck driver had gone missing. He'd been on a similar late-night return route. His truck had been found parked on the shoulder of a state highway with the door open. No signs of a struggle in or around the truck. No one had seen him get out. He was simply gone. The deputy asked Paul to describe the man he'd encountered. Paul described him in detail. The deputy wrote everything down and didn't say much. Before he left, he told Paul he'd done the right thing, not letting the man in the truck. Paul asked him directly, "Do you think that's connected? The driver who went missing?" The deputy said he couldn't speak to an active investigation. Paul said, "But you came here tonight. You were already here when I pulled in." The deputy didn't answer that. He thanked Paul, gave him a card, and left. Paul sat in that depot office for a long time after. He said he kept replaying it. The hand on his arm, the quiet voice, the clean shoes. He kept thinking about the other driver, someone just like him, same roads, same hours, same job. Someone who maybe hadn't noticed the shoes. Someone who maybe had let the man in. He said the thing that he struggles with the most isn't fear. He's past the fear of it. The thing he struggles with is the randomness. The fact that he just happened to look at the shoes. He just happened to notice the breathing. It wasn't some special skill or training. He wasn't more careful or more prepared than the driver who disappeared. He was just lucky enough to be looking at the right things at the right moment. He said most nights now, when he's on that route and it's late and the road is empty, he thinks about how many variables had to line up for him to drive away from that shoulder, and how many variables had to line up for the other driver not to.
3 stories. 3 different roads, 3 different states, 3 different people just trying to get home. What I keep coming back to, what all 3 of these have in common, is that the people in them weren't heroes. They didn't have training or weapons or backup. They had instinct. They had the willingness to trust that quiet voice that said something here is not adding up. Travis looked at 4 normal tires and a woman standing in the road and trusted what that felt like in his chest. Renee didn't pull into her own driveway when a truck was behind her, even though she wasn't sure why, even though it felt paranoid in the moment. Paul looked at a pair of clean shoes and let that be enough. That's it. That's all any of them did. They paid attention to the small things, and they took themselves seriously when it mattered. You don't need a reason that you can explain to someone else. You don't need to be able to prove it or justify it or have something concrete to point to. That feeling, that quiet, certain, specific feeling that something is wrong, has been keeping people alive for a very long time. Trust it. Lock your doors, check your mirrors, and get home safe. I'll see you in the next one.